Hey, hello YouTube, Trademark Kill here. Today we have another RWBY Talk video. Last week they did a Thanksgiving break type thing where they just showed a World of the Remnant. But this week we got back right into the action with a shorter episode. It was only about 11 minutes when you cut the ending credits and opening cinematic. When you cut those off, it's only about 11 minutes. But we got a lot of information, and this is episode 5. Next week's episode 6, which would be the official halfway point of this season. So this was one of the first episodes to only follow one of our 4 main girls, and this one being all based all around Blake and her journey back home to Menagerie. And we've actually found some interesting stuff, more backstory on the Faunus and what they were given after the Great War and kind of their situation, because they're on Menagerie, but the entire island altogether is 2/3 desert, and because the wildlife is so much more dangerous and aggressive, they can't actually use 2/3 of the land because they can't safely move into other parts of the island, which is pretty interesting to think that we thought they had this great big landmass before, but now we find out it's not not as it appears. But I guess that's a lot of things if you think about politics and how that stuff works. It's not always as it seems, even if it seems fair. Generally, it's not gonna be fair. We also finally meet Blake's parents. The girl that's in the opening cinematic that we see next to Blake is her mother. The very first time I saw the opening, I thought it might be a sister. No, it's her mother. I did at one point go back on what I thought it was, so don't worry. Yeah. But we also meet her father, which is a mountain of a man. They both appear to be some sort of cat or panther faunus. Her mother does look more almost lynx-ish with her ears, but still a cat. And her father appears to be some sort of panther. Although we have not seen, he's a mountain of a man and with all black hair and a black hair patch on his chest. We haven't seen, his, or at least that I've not noticed, we haven't seen his faunus trait yet, but it could possibly be claws or something like that, and that creating him being a panther. And altogether, they actually seem pretty, really chill parents. They're very happy to see their daughter, of course, although I love there's a scene with they talk about how they were nervous after hearing about Beacon, and that they were both nervous for Blake and what would happen, and then Son pipes up with I've seen your daughter in action, and trust me, she has some moves, which Blake's dad doesn't take too kindly to. But we also get a lot of that's a really good comedy spot, but we also get some ignorance coming from her parents, because if we skip forward a little bit past this initial conversation with the 4 of them at the table, it turns out that there are White Fang in Menagerie, and that it's pretty apparent that there's a lot of ignorance to what actually happened at Beacon, because when Blake's father goes to answer the door, and her mom tells you, "Oh, there's a meeting with the White Fang, and there's supposed to be a meeting with the White Fang." They run to the door, where you get Fennec and Corsac Albane, or however they're necessarily called, but which is funny because Fennec and Corsac are both types of foxes, and they have very obvious fox traits, so that's a really cool little detail. But we find out that the Belladonnas in Menagerie don't actually know about that the White Fang were there, and this kind of tends to the news that not a lot of the world actually knows what happened at Beacon, because Beacon only has inter-kingdom communication available right now, and any other information would be from Atlas. But also, this is so militaristic, that would probably be classified information and would not be spread out to or told openly to the other kingdoms. So we're getting kind of the dividing lines on what is told between the kingdoms and land masses and Menagerie and everything, to the point where, again, Gira and Kali, which are the names of Blake's parents, Gira being the father and Kali being the mother. Kind of interesting because Gira apparently has a Arabic meaning of self-respect among men and jealousy among women, and Kali is the Hindu god of destruction. Not sure if those will come into play at all, because we find out later that Gira was the head of the White Fang before he stepped down to be chieftain of Menagerie, which is also the apparently, if you go back to I believe Volume 1 when Blake was telling the story of the White Fang to Sun, she'd mentioned a leader that stepped down, which would have been her father. But overall, during the scene, we find out that the Belladonnas did not know about the attack and how the White Fang was involved. The White Fang Menagerie claim that they are a splinter. The White Fang of Menagerie talk about how the White Fang of Vale are a splinter cell or a splinter group that are following not Kong, who is the high leader Kong, who we heard about in the first episode when she sends Hazel to talk to Adam and Kong, but is under the Vale group of the White Fang is under Adam's leadership, and Adam is a fanatic. So we get that little information, but then it comes back to bite us when at the end the Fennec and Corsac, who are the White Fang, who are coming to meet with the Gira Belladonna, the chieftain. As they walk away from the house, they say, "Shall we inform brother Adam?" And they say, and the other replies, "We shall," which just tells you that was a lie. Although at the time when you first watch it, it seems so believable that maybe this could be our ally in a way, that maybe if Selena, I believe it was Selena Kong, turns her back, and like then we have like two splinters of the White Fang, the original White Fang, which had their original purpose, and then Adam and Kong / Salem's White Fang that would then side with Salem, and then Blake would then be the leader of the original White Fang, which would have been so cool until you realize that they were lying and that this was just them trying to talk their way out of the situation by saying how they have plans to capture the rogue White Fang and Adam and blah blah blah. And wow, they did a really fun, like, this episode was such a question answerer, but it does give us something to go off of for later, which is what I'm basically starting to do since we're right next to the midpoint of the series. I'm going to start giving some ideas of what I think are happening and what's our end set going to be when we end this volume. What's the ending going to entail for us? And I'm just going to run down the list because we also have a sneak peek at the ending where you have the waitress from the crow scene from the previous actual episode, not the World of Remnant. You have that waitress scrubbing the floor, and then Tyrion comes and asks her if she can help her look for someone, or help him look for someone. And it's the same waitress. It looks like it's the same bar, so they're obviously in the same town as Ruby and Crow. So with that being said, this is how it's going to lead into our kind of end game for this season. And we're going to start with Ruby / Ranger / Crow and Tyrion. Tyrion is going to be our end boss for Team Ruby or Team Ranger or Team Junior or whatever. But they're not going to be able to defeat Tyrion, just the four of them. There's going to be interception by Crow. And as I said before, with what Tyrion's doing, if there's any relation between Crow, Tyrion, and Raven, if they're at all involved in the same group or near the same group, if Ruby finds out, that could cause distrust among her and her team and Crow and any assistance Crow may be offering. So with that being said, and also if you think about why that also would make further sense, is because who came back to Beacon directly after or directly before the fall of Beacon? Crow. Crow was there. Crow came back, and then all of a sudden everything goes to shit. So having that connection and then that timeline of events could cause a distrust for Team Ranger to distrust Crow. Although I do believe Crow will still continue following them and babysitting them almost in a sense. And I believe that's a strong kind of setup that we'll have towards the end of the season. And it also makes sense because we need, like, Tyrion. I have a feeling for the next couple volumes, we're going to be kind of picking off or dealing with, in some way, shape, or form, the kind of lieutenants of Salem. So first would be Tyrion. Tyrion will come in. He's going to take things too lightly, and he's gonna lose. And whether we kill him directly with Crow and Team Ranger, or whether he goes back as a failure to Salem, and then Salem finishes him off, or Salem mutates him to a Grim, which we then deal with later. That's yet to be seen. But right now, Team Ranger's endgame is going to be dealing with Tyrion, and then having a storyline develop with Crow going forward to set up Volume 5, most likely. I would not be surprised if Episode 6 is going to deal with Yang and Weiss exclusively, and possibly even Episode 7 dealing with Weiss and then Blake. And so basically, the next person on the list would be Weiss, and hers is going to be basically breaking this power that her father has over her, and over like his greed, and breaking that, and then going off on her own finally again. And what I think is going to, like, there's a lot of stuff we haven't seen that is in the intro cinematic of Weiss that is not yet talked about, so we could be getting into that. And it looks like instead of practicing for her performance at the benefit concert, she is practicing some sort of fight or her fighting style. So I would not be surprised if that kind of kicks in and she's going to be fighting against her father to break his power in public. She's going to humiliate him in public in order to kind of break him and break the control and greed he has, and then be able to finally free herself from his clutches, basically. Weiss is kind of like the short end of the stick right now because we have had maybe 15-20 minutes of Weiss time. So that would be, Weiss is definitely going to be one who's going to be developing as you watch these videos in terms of my predictions. So keep out a lookout for all the Weiss information that I'll be talking about in future videos. The next one we have just set up is Blake's endgame, and basically she's going to end up running from Adam again. Adam's going to find her and is going to I hate it. I know I'm a bloodmonger. I love, like, any anime I watch has to have people dying and main characters dying because that was what means the most to me, right? The reason why I can't watch Fairy Tail or stop watching Fairy Tail is because no one fucking dies and nothing exciting happens. No one's in danger at all. I can't get into it. If you're in a fight for 35 minutes and you got hit with flame and iron and shit, and you don't die, I just can't watch it. So I know I'm being a bloodmonger. I know that I'm being evil, but there is so much. Okay. I have the feeling that this is going to be a very short-lived family reunion, and that it is completely possible that Blake's family and possibly son dies. And I know that's hard to hear, and I know y'all might be freaking Blake and son shippers, and we just met this cool family who seemed to be really chill, but Adam's going to hear that Blake is in Menagerie, and there is nothing in that town that he will not spare in order to get to her. And what I think may very well happen, one night, there's a raid on the village from the Bad White Fang who just decide, you know what? We don't need Menagerie. You get on the boat and you help us to go take over the other kingdoms, or we burn everything you love, including yourself, and you die. Blake's mother and father go to fight, and in the night, she wakes up shortly after the fighting starts, but her parents are already gone. She goes, she searches, and she arrives just in the time to watch her father die and her mother die. Her, Adam, Blake get into a fight, or her, Adam, and Son get into a fight. Son goes down, Son possibly dies. Although it would be cool to see him get injured, him go back to Vacuo and then reunite with his team, and then we see them later in a different volume. But I do not think at the very least that Blake's parents are going to make it. I'm sorry, but it's going to end in her running from Adam again, or in order to save herself, because she's not going to be able to do it, and then that's when she's going to break, because I want my one-woman army Blake. It's already looked like I'm being denied my evil Yang. I want my one-woman army Blake. And if I have to sacrifice 2 Faunus to do it, so goddamn be it. It's going to happen. Blake is going to be a one-woman wrecking crew, and her parents' blood will be the cause of it. That sounds so fucking bad. For Yang's endgame, it's going to get to the point where she's been practicing sparring with her father constantly, and it's going to get to the point where she's besting him so often, the only way she can get better is to go back to doing what she used to do in adventuring, and she will finally go after her sister, RWBY. And I know I gave up on my evil Yang. I don't think she's going to do the turn. I think if anyone does any sort of bad guy turn, or even remotely bad guy turn, it is going to be Blake, unfortunately. She's going to be the only one doing something negative, but in the cause of right. So that sucks. But right now, again, Blake is... RWBY and Blake kind of are in position right now, but Yang and Weiss are going to be 2 that are going to be developing over the course of the next few episodes. So again, stay tuned, and I'll give my updates on each individual character as we learn more. I won't do this full 4-character rundown. I'll just give you guys a little bit of the update of where I feel they're going each episode. But other than that, that's really it. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, Trade McCool's out. Peace.